Individualised Comprehensive School Welsh Baccalaureate Skills Challenge Certificate Global Skills Lessons, Lesson 5, the Personal Standpoint. Now, all the work that you have been doing thus far has led to this point, the personal standpoint, which will be one of the pieces that we will be assessing as a Welsh Bacc team in school, as the progress you've made from your distance learning. But also when you do the actual challenge, there is marks awarded for your personal standpoint. It's quite a large part of the marks awarded for the Global Skills Challenge. So, what you'll be doing now is writing your personal standpoint. I would aim to try and complete it in 1 hour. Spend a little bit of time planning it out first and try to stick to a word count of 800 words. Now that's the word count that you'd have at the challenge and the time frame you'd have to work within. So obviously it's good practice to work within these time frames and the word count. We do sort of give a 10% allowance either way, so maybe if you write 720 words, that's fine. If you write 880 words, that's fine. We're not going to be checking every word at this point, but just to give you an idea of what you should be working towards. Now, your personal standpoint is in relation to the question that we looked at in Lesson 1. Should ending child poverty be the world's #1 priority? Your task 5 from Lesson 1 was the Hans diagram showing why ending child poverty should be the world's #1 priority, and you should have thought of other factors, on the other hand. So, what you will need to do in your personal standpoint, very much like the discussion text that many have written in humanities at Key Stage 3, you're going to introduce the topic, make reference to the statement, being, reducing child poverty should be the world's #1 priority, maybe include a definition of child poverty, some of the work that you've done previously. You then need to put on one hand, or one paragraph, why ending child poverty should be the world's #1 priority. Use information from the sources that you have analysed, and remember to mention rules. So that's the reliability, up-to-date, relevance, and utility of each of the sources that you use. Then you need to look at the other side of the argument, points for other global issues being more important than child poverty. Use any information you found out. If you feel that global warming is a bigger issue, here's your chance to sort of discuss it and give evidence to support that argument. You also need to include the pestle issues that the sources raised, which you covered in the previous lesson. So make sure you say that if a source talks about the government, you say, there's a political issue mentioned here that says that the government is trying to improve child poverty. The next section is a little bit difficult, but obviously I'm hoping now over the next couple of weeks, if we see you, or if you're completing this at home, you might discuss this with your parents, family members, even friends online. You need to comment on any discussions you've had in your check-in session in school, or any conversation you've had at home, and ask people for their viewpoints. Do they agree that ending child poverty is the world's #1 priority? Do they suggest other priorities at the moment that are more important? And you've got to sort of reflect on other people's views and sort of show how you can understand why they might think this way, why they might have a viewpoint, even if it's different to yours. Finally then, you need to come to a conclusion. Discuss your final thoughts on the issue and make sure you justify your reasons. So you've got to come to a judgment. Don't sit on the fence. Either ending child poverty is the world's #1 priority or it isn't. And if it isn't, what do you think it should be? And give reasons to justify why you've got that opinion. Now, just to give you an idea, I've included a bit of an exemplar version of a personal standpoint on child poverty. So, we can see here this candidate, if you read through the introduction, gives a definition there, as you can see, of what child poverty is. However, I might want to have seen maybe some sort of reference to the statement, how they were going to sort of address that there. So yes, it's good to give a definition of what child poverty is, but maybe explain how you're going to answer the statement, and what's your sort of line of argument going to be. They've moved on then to talk about the fact that they had a discussion in class about it, and there's lots of discussions amongst it as you read through this information. Obviously, pause it now when you feel you need to read through it. And to listen, and so you're not listening too much to what I'm saying, but you're actually taking in what's being said as well. So you can clearly see, that this person is talking about child poverty being a priority. They're, mentioning some facts. Nearly 1 billion of them living in poverty. But again, I would like to see where these facts have come from. Which source have they gathered this information from? They do say their sort of alternative point of view, where they don't think it is the biggest problem in the world. They say it's a top problem. And they say, again, they use lots of facts, but I think what this answer is missing for me, this response, is they don't reference the sources they've used, and because they don't reference the sources, they're unable to use ruru on the sources. So they don't say source A said da 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 da, and then got into source A is reliable because that's what you need to be doing. So try and get that in there if you can. I know you're working with a very small word count for what you need to do, but you've got to be quite concise. So much like the skills you would use maybe in English, make your point, give it evidence, and explain. So move on, and you can see that this person has done some research, and they're saying that actually there were other things that are the world's #1 priority, with a survey in 2017 saying that climate change was the biggest priority, with 48.8% of people who were surveyed voting for it. So they've done, quite a bit here to show the alternative viewpoint and different arguments. But again, I'd like to maybe see a bit of a development here. Okay, maybe have a wider range of issues covered. They only talk about them, they don't really explain why these might be seen as more important issues. They do go on here to explain a little bit more about that, okay? And they do try and link it to sort of poverty, they talk about food prices rising, etc. But I think it sort of doesn't really touch upon any of the pestle factors either here. So they don't mention, the political issues involved, the economic issues involved. You need to make direct reference to them. You need to say, this is a political issue because, this is a economic issue because, this is a social issue because. The conclusion is quite strong in the sense that they say they believe that child poverty is a big issue in society. It's not the major issue. They do talk about that, solving child poverty will happen if we focus on some of the other issues. So by the ripple effect they talked about. So reducing global warming, war, will mean that there's more money to help with child poverty. So again, quite a strong argument to finish on. I think, as I say, what this answer maybe is missing is that ruru analysis and the pestle analysis. So that's just a bit of a guide as to what your personal standpoint would look like. I would suggest completing it on Word or a similar program if you're able to submit it, because that will allow you to look at the word count as well, which is quite important that you stick into as close to possible as to the word limit. Again, as I said, try and complete it in the hour. That doesn't include planning time, so allow yourself 20 minutes, half an hour to plan your response, your personal standpoint, and then spend about an hour trying to type it up. If you're going to handwrite it and take a photo to submit it, that's fine as well. Obviously, probably easier if you submit it via a word processing software. So I say Microsoft Word is probably the best version to use. If you don't have access to that, there are others available. And if you have any questions, please just get in touch. You will need to submit your work, remember, in the pupil submission drop, or the assignment drop. So hopefully that's helped you make a start on your personal standpoint. I look forward to seeing you in the catch-up sessions if you're in. And again, if you do have any questions, please just email me and I will help you with those.